sprites, because it's really important to know how your character will move around. Okay, so I think enough about the backdrop. So now that we have figured out everything here, we can go on to the sprite. So sprites are basically the graphic characters that are used in Scratch in order to make your game interesting, or you can add as many as you want and make it more complicated. Some things to see about the sprite. Here is its properties. So first thing is we can change the name. I can call the sprite like a cat.
Να κλικάρουμε πάνω για να το κάνουμε. Να κλικάρουμε πάνω.
Yes. In order to see the properties of the specific sprite, you have to click on it. Just as we did before when we want to see the properties of the backdrop, we had to click on it. Now you have to click on the cat. So I can change the name, and just like we said, you can see here the coordinates of my sprite, of the cat sprite. I can see where it's on the x-axis and where it is on the y-axis. And I can also change that. So if I want my sprite to be in the middle, I'm gonna here an input 0, and I'm gonna go here and input 0. So 0.0 are the coordinates, and it's right in the middle of the stage. Another thing I can do is I can make it non-visible. This will be very useful when you have like a really big game and you have a lot of sprites and you don't want some of them in the way when you're coding your game. I want it visible for the time, and here's the size. I can resize it. Basically, it's like up to a scale of 100%, 100% being the original that you see here. I can make it bigger, or I can make it much smaller. Oh, that's even bigger. Okay, now it's much smaller. Yeah, and last thing to know, also quite important, and also something usually kids have a trouble with, so it's really important to figure it out in the start before you start building the game, is how your character moves around in the stage, because since we're talking about a two-dimensional game, we do not have the z-axis, which is like the height. So as you can see here, when I go on direction, it says 90 degrees, and I can see my sprite is pointing to the right. It's on its right side. Basically, what you need to remember, and then everything will be easier, is 0 degrees is up. So when I take this to 0 degrees, my sprite is looking up. And something else very easy to help you distinguish between what is happening here is on the left semicircle, on the right semicircle is the positive. So you go from 0 to, as you can imagine, 180. Let me put it manually. Okay, so from the right semicircle, your sprite will be looking on its right side. But when I go from 0 to the left side, as you can see, the degrees start to decline. So they go from 0 to -1, -2, etc. And it goes up until -179. And as you can see, what happens to my sprite is it starts looking on its left side. So all you have to remember is right semicircle means my sprite looks on its right, left semicircle, my sprite looks on its left. And since this specific sprite, I don't want it because it's weird having my sprite look like that. It's like something happened to it, but what I can do, and what we usually do with sprites that have this kind of visual, we click on the second rotation style. We do not want the first one, which is the circular. We want the linear. And basically the linear says it, you either go left or right, there is no in between. And as you can imagine, the first semicircle, the right one is right, and the second semicircle, the left one is left. So this is much easier. And the last rotation style, it just like does not rotate at all, okay? So what we need for the purposes here is the left and right. You will see it when we begin a game. And okay, so now that we have seen all the properties of a sprite, let's bring a new sprite here, because now we only have one. So just as we did with the backdrop, it's the same with the sprites. You just click here, you have 4 choices this time and not 5. You can choose a sprite from the library, the Scratch library. You can choose whatever you want. We will use a lot of them later. Let's pick this one. And you can either paint one, you can have Scratch choose one random, and of course you can upload the sprite, which means basically you choose a picture you have locally on your computer and you upload it here and you can use it just as you would any other sprite. So how do I delete one? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You click on the little bin icon and it's deleted. So another and the last thing we're going to talk about sprites is, as you can see, when I click on the sprite up here, just as before with the backdrops, I have 3 choices, which is the code, basically to code my sprite, and the costumes. And as you can see, the cat sprite already has 2 different costumes. And if I go on the jar sprite, it has, again, 2 different costumes. There are some sprites with only 1 costume. There are some sprites with 5 different costumes. Specifically, the cat one, or the ones that look like they could be walking, is really fun to keep both of them because it will make our game a little bit more realistic as we make it walk. So the user has a better experience, of course. And of course, you can add a costume on your sprite. So even if I have the cat sprite, I can add, like, for example, this as a costume. And now my cat sprite has 1, 2, 3 costumes. So you can play around, depending on your game, a lot with the costumes. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the sounds tab because we're not going to be using them. And basically all you can do is like add the sound to your sprite, and that's it. Okay, so we're done with the sprites and the backdrop, and now to the important stuff, the blocks, the coding part. Okay, so you will...
Okay.
Okay, is everyone okay? Yeah, do we have any questions actually on the chat, maybe? I don't know.
No, there are no questions.
No questions.
I should say.
Okay.
But there's something that we forgot to talk about before, and it's very important because what Martina is showing to you at the moment is how to create a game. But we forgot to say that the main purpose of today's game that we are going to create together is about earthquakes. We have picked one of the natural disasters that rAn project deals with. And we have adjusted some of the objectives regarding the learning objectives regarding earthquakes in the mini game that Martina is going to show you how to create today. So the purpose is not to create a game with a cat, obviously, but you will see in the following steps that the game is adjusted on earthquakes and on the learning objectives that we might have in a lesson plan. Okay, the word back to you.
Okay, good. So yeah, we're not going to start our game yet. We just need to talk about the blocks portion of the platform. And I will tell you when we're about to begin our game, so you can also prepare and start your project and follow along my steps. So blocks. Basically, something really cool Scratch has done. They have color coded them, so it's much easier to figure out what you're doing and to find also the commands. Another thing they have done is they have I would say shape coded them, and as you can see, some of them look like a hat, and it's these ones. Okay, I think now you have a better view. You can see all these look the same. They're called hat blocks, and basically what they do is they start a script. So you need one of them to start your script. Your script is basically a piece of code, and a lot of scripts together make a code. So your code, your whole coding here will have different scripts inside. So these are the hat blocks. I'm gonna delete them, keep maybe only one of them. Then we can see the stack blocks. The stack blocks look like that. And as you can see, we have some here. And I think we also, yeah, we have also some here in the sensors. Stack blocks basically perform the main commands. These are used to build the big portion of the code you're going to be using. And then we have the Boolean blocks, which are the conditions. Inside our code, we will make some conditional statements, and using these kind of blocks will look like a rhombus, are going to be the conditions we're going to be using. After that, we have the circular ones. You see, they look like a circle. And yeah, we also have this one. Okay, we also have this that looks like a circle. These are all values. They're called reporter blocks, but it's easier to remember that they are values and they accept values. So wherever you see a circle, it's waiting for a value to be dropped there or to edit it manually, as you saw I did just here. Then we have the C blocks. I think they are only here in the control tab. They look like a C, basically. That's why they call the C block. And what happens with them? They loop the blocks that are within them. So inside these C blocks, I can put another block and another block, and they create like loops. And lastly, we have the cap blocks. I think there are only two of them. Yes, this one and this one. As you can see, after those cap blocks, you cannot add another block. Like I cannot add this to this, while this I can add in here. So cap blocks basically end the script. After it, there are no more commands to be added, so the script is done. So as you saw, all this time I've been showing you the blocks. The way to put them in your script area is you grab it and you drag and drop it inside the script area. When you want to delete it, you can either right click on it and click delete, or you can just drag it back and it will be deleted into the blocks area. What else do I want to say here? Yeah, of course. Another thing that you will be needing to do a lot is duplicating blocks. Like, for example, if I have created a script, which could be usually quite big, and I need the same script into another sprite, and I do not want to go to the next sprite and build the script again from the start, I can just right click on it, duplicate it, and use it wherever I want. Or if I don't want the whole script duplicated and I just want the last two commands, I right click on the last two commands, duplicate, and I have them duplicated. So this just like buys me a lot of time during coding. What else? Yeah, of course. Something else which will be useful again to save us a lot of coding time. For example, now, as you have noticed, I have the cat selected. You can see around it, it's blue, so I know it's been selected. So all the code that you see here only goes for the cat. It will not happen to the jar that I have as a second sprite. You see the jar, I selected it and it's pretty much empty in here. So when I go back to the cat, and as I said before, maybe I want this script to be done also by the jar, all I have to do is grab it and drop it here on the jar. And you see when I go on the jar, it does a little bit of a shake, and that's how I know that it will go inside. Now I click on the jar and it has been transported, the script of commands. So things to remember here, actually, I think the most common like mistake I would say is forgetting to click on the correct sprite. So in order to avoid a lot of messiness, it's really important to check that you have the correct sprite selected and then you start coding. And of course, When you want to switch your sprite, you select the other one. I think if it's time for some questions, you have some, because the next part is going to be starting to build the game. We have explained pretty much everything of the features of the platform, and we're ready to start building our game. So if you have any questions, I think it's the time.
Yeah. They do have. I suppose that we can let them ask now, because we don't have 200 people.
Okay.
So this means that there are 2 people that have raised their hands.
Okay, good.
Excuse me, but I cannot. It's Derek. So this is what I can figure out from your name. So Derek, you have the word, and then Eleni.
Okay, my name is basically Vosiliko. I guess in Greek it will be Vasili.
Maybe.
Okay, I have one technical question for you. Is it possible to record this webinar so we could watch it later?
This is something, yeah, that's a good question. This is something that I forgot to mention before. This is the webinar is being recorded at the moment. I suppose that you were already notified about this, but maybe I'm mistaken. It would not be published if we didn't have your permission, of course. But since nobody has any problem with this, and you can declare it now if you have any objection. Otherwise, it will be uploaded. We will send you the link in your email address, so that you can have all the time to check again and see how some of the details were, and you can work at the ease of your home and from your couch. And you can take all the time and test and experiment with the game, with the mechanics. Eleni, I think it was you.
Yes, I have 2 questions. The first one is if we can undo a command, and how can we undo a command? And the second one is about the duplicate. Can we duplicate but in another sprite? Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so first question you asked is whether we can undo something that we did. So basically, I'm guessing you mean like if by accident I deleted all of my blocks. The easiest thing I can do is press on my keyboard Control and Z, which works everywhere in Windows. So you see, I have deleted them, and then I press Control and Z, and I bring them back. So I did undo the last move I did. And the other thing you asked me is if I can duplicate in another sprite. So basically, you're asking if you can do Control-C, Control-V into another sprite. This is done, as I showed, by drag and dropping the script into the other sprite. So as you can see, I drag it and I see the cat is shaking a little bit. So I know it's gonna go there. And when I go back to the cat, it's here. It has been transported. I don't know if I answered your questions.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Somebody else? No? Okay. Okay, good.
Can move on.
Yeah, so we can continue actually. Okay. Is there a question? Oh, no. Okay, good. So I'm gonna delete the second sprite that I had here for the purposes of explaining, and also.
Sorry, Martina. Sorry to interrupt, but there is actually a question.
Okay.
There is Stavroula that is asking. I would like to. It's like swings. How can I do automatically? I suppose that she means you can take the word Stavroula if you want to step. Okay, let me see who Stavroula is. Let me. Anyway, you can activate your microphone if you need to make this question in public. Thank you, Nikos, for the information about the other project. I wasn't aware of it. It could be of help. Maybe we can take some ideas, some useful ideas. Anyway, did you understand the question? That's
actually, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Movements like swings.
Maybe she means that the sprite would move in different.
Yeah, like it goes from one place to the other automatically, or.
Anyway, if you want to clarify your question, you could write on the chat. Yeah. Otherwise, during the break, we can discuss about it.
Yeah, we can discuss it actually during the break if you want, Stavula. Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so let's begin with our game. I have just kept the cat here. You can choose any sprite you want, and the first game we're gonna create is like based on prevention of earthquakes. What we're gonna do is we're gonna choose a backdrop that looks like a kid's room or like a room, like a bedroom, and then we're gonna have the user choose between some objects that are okay to place above your bed. So that has to do with prevention during an earthquake or before an earthquake. So I'm gonna go to the backdrop. I'm gonna go here on backdrops. I'm gonna delete the ones that I had before. Before I delete this one, I'm gonna go and choose indoors.
As you are searching, something that has to be said, it's important. Prior to developing the game, it should be obvious that we must have a main idea. So this means that as teachers, we should focus on specific concepts. We should have a broader thematic, of course, so that we can concentrate on specific concepts. So what did we do here with Martina? We picked some of the scenarios that we have included in the run game content, and we tried in the Scratch environment. So this means that we found a couple of ideas that could be implemented with Scratch. And what we are going to create in the first scene is trying to let kids know about what to avoid in order not to be in risk when an earthquake happens. So this has to do with prevention, as Martina said before. And this means that we have to have very well-defined objectives, very well-defined concepts, so that we can build activities that are clear for kids to play with during the game.
Okay, and Stavroula, just saw your question on the chat. We can, of course, talk about it during the break. I just understood what you were meaning. Okay, so back to the game. Yes, just as Spiro said, we have already created a scenario, and that's the first step always, to first create the scenario, and then you're gonna start building. Otherwise, you will be doing a lot of coding, which then you will be deleting if you're not sure what you want to build. So as I said, we need a backdrop that looks like a room. This is basically a bedroom. I'm gonna delete the other one. I don't need it. I only need the first one. And I'm also gonna rename it because this will be easier during my coding to have my backdrops named as levels. So this is going to be level 1.
I have to interrupt again because we have to make it functional. As before, I have seen 2 people raising their hands. Maybe Eleni forgot the hand from her previous intervention. We have Manuel Pereira. It's okay. You can ask whatever you want. But it's the last time that we intend to interrupt the session. Not because we don't want to answer to questions, but of course we can understand that if all the people here raise their hands in order to ask for minor things, it will take forever. So Manuel, if you have something to ask, you can do it now. But for whoever has any further questions, and they are not that urgent, you can still use the chat. I strongly advise you to open up the chat in the parallel window, so that you can put your questions there. But since I gave you the word, Manuel, you can ask now, and Let us know.
Hello. My question is how I make in this case.
I can hear him. Manuel?
My question is how I make in this case my cat stop.
Please a little down. Can you ask again?
How I make my actor stop.
How
stop to move.
You're asking to do it what?
How I make my actor stop to move.
Stop. Okay, stop. I haven't even started showing how to make it move. So you're forward. I will show in a bit. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. So I think we can continue from here. We chose our backdrop. I have renamed it to level 1. And now I'm gonna go and code it. And the first thing I want to happen is let the game know, because I didn't speak about that before, I'm sorry. There is a green flag up here and a stop button next to it. Basically, every Scratch game, in order to begin, you have to click on the green flag. So this is like, let's say, the play button or the start button. So I want to let the game know that whenever I push on the green flag, whenever I push the play button, basically, I want the first backdrop to be the one that I just chose, because it's the first level for me in the game. So I'm gonna go onto the Events tab. I'm gonna choose the command that says when the green flag is clicked, and then I'm gonna go onto Looks, and I'm gonna say that I want to switch backdrop to level 1. And as you can remember, level 1, I just renamed my first backdrop to level 1. So every time now I push the button, the green flag, I'm gonna have the bedroom as the first level. Okay, so now time to make our sprite move. I think for the purposes of the game, the best thing to do is make it move with the arrows, which is like pretty much most of the games use the arrows. So we also want to do that here. And what we want to do is go to Events, pick the second command that says when space key pressed, and instead of space, the space button, I'm gonna go here on the drop-down menu and click on the right arrow. So what will happen to my sprite when I click on my keyboard, the right arrow? I want it to move on its right, which, as we said before, that means on the x-axis. And specifically, it means on the positive side. So it's going to go up. The value on the x-axis is going to go up. So I want to go on to motion, and I want to say change x by 10. This means change the value of the x-axis by 10. 10 being every 10 steps. So if you're on to 0, okay, let me put my cat to 0. You can see on my x-axis I'm in 0. And if I click the right arrow on my keyboard, it will go to 10. As you saw, it went to x equals 10. And if I click it again, it goes to 20, 30, and every time I click the right arrow, the x is changed by plus 10. Another thing I want to do here, as we said, our cat has different costumes. So in order to make it more fun and more realistic, I want to make it move. So every time I click on the right arrow, I want to change the costume. And as you can see, the costumes we said before, they make the cat look like it's walking. So I'm gonna go to Looks, and I'm gonna go to Next Costume. So now every time I click on the arrow, you can see the cat looks like it's moving, like it's walking, so it's changing the costume. And another thing, actually, yeah, another thing we want to do is, because after that we're gonna code the left arrow, and when our cat moves to the left side, we want to look on the left side. Just as we said in the beginning, this has to do with the direction. So I want to set my direction when I click on the right arrow to look to 90 degrees. So I know that when I go to the right, my cat also looks to the right. So I'm gonna go here in motion, and I'm gonna say point in direction 90 degrees. And I want first to do the steps and then move by 10. It's still working fine. And now it's pretty easy. All I have to do is right click on the command that says when right arrow key pressed, duplicate it, and change the values depending on what I want to do. What I want to do is code the left arrow. So I'm going to choose left arrow. This time I do not want to point into the direction of 90, but as we said before, minus 90. So it looks to the other side. I still wanted to change the costume because I still wanted to look like it's walking. And this time the X doesn't change by plus 10, but by minus 10, because on the X-axis, when you go to the left, you start going down. And let's put it again on the 0, so you can see the X going down by minus 10, minus 10, minus 30, and you can see it keeps. So both sides work now, they're fully functioning. So it's time to do the up and down arrows. We can still duplicate this, but we will need to delete some of these options. So I'm gonna go on to up arrow. What will happen when I click on the up arrow key? This time I do not care about the direction, because when my sprite goes up and down onto the y-axis, it doesn't matter which way it's looking. It will just keep the last direction depending on which of these two buttons was last clicked. So I'm gonna delete this block, I don't need it. And another super important thing to change here is I do not need the X to change by 10, but I need the Y to change by 10, because when we move up and down, we're on the Y-axis. So, okay, this is the correct command, change Y by 10. Let's see if it's working. And you can see my cat also goes up. And last thing I have to do, duplicate it, choose down arrow instead of up, and change the Y by minus 10. And now we have a fully functioning sprite that can go all around our stage. Maybe if you have questions, let me check the chat. Okay, we do the same steps in the Scratch interface. I don't understand it.
Stavroula wants to use.
Oh,
Stavroula wants to use the. It's the same question.
No, Anastasia asks, we do the same step in the Scratch interface. The same step as what?
Maybe in order to reproduce the movement, this is what you said before, and maybe you have already answered to the question that you can change costumes. So if you want to represent a movement in the environment and maybe give the idea of changing, steps in motion in the environment, you will have to change costumes, and this depends. The number of costumes depends on what accuracy you want to represent in the movement. So this means that you might need to, let's say, make use of 5 costumes or 6 costumes. Just imagine it like an animation, a cartoon. So this means that if you want to reproduce movement in a cartoon, you have to make a sequence of interchanging, let's say, scenes. In our case, we're talking about costumes. This is what Martina did with 2 costumes for the cat in order to reproduce the movement in the environment, just like walking.
I don't know if that's what she means.
Maybe during the break you can make the question in Greek, and we can solve your problem.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can continue, we can go on. So now that we have made our cat move. Another thing we have to say is what will happen to the cat when the backdrop switches to level 1. Because every time we change a backdrop, the level changes. So we want the sprite to have a specific commands. So I'm gonna come here and say, when the backdrop switches to level 1, I want my cat to be placed to this specific point. I don't want it randomly anywhere in the room. So a really cool thing to do here is very helpful by Scratch. What I would have done is go in motion, take the command that says go to X value, Y value, and put it here. And then I would have, okay, let me first show it like that. And then I would have put my cat here. When I want it, I would have seen the values of X and Y, and I would have to input them here. But something much easier to do is before you bring your command from the panel, you firstly put your sprite to the place you want, to the coordinates you want, and you can see the coordinates, they change as well in here. So if I put my cat here, the coordinates just changed. So that makes it much, much easier to work with the coordinates. I don't even have to input them, they're ready. Okay, so another thing I want to do is have the cat say to the user how the game is played. This could be done in many different ways. You can have like a separate splash screen that would say to the user how to play. But I think the easier for us now is just to have our main character have the instructions. So I want to say go to that specific place and then say, as we said, the game will be to click on the correct items that you should put above your bed. So click only okay, so this is the feedback from the game to the user. And it's an easy way to explain how to play the game. So yeah, I want the cat to say that. And another thing I want to do is have the cat say to the user, how are you going to go to the next level? How do you know the game is over, or how do you move on to the next level? Another thing we can do, which is pretty easy, we can just have the user press the space button, and when the space button is pressed, you're ready to go to the next level. So I can also have my cat say, press when ready, press space. Of course, for you, it can be something different if you prefer. It doesn't have to be the same as I just did it. You can have your cat say something different as a feedback to the user. But this is, I think, the easiest for someone also to understand. Okay, so now that we have, I think we're done with our main character for the time being, we can start putting new sprites here and start coding them. So I'm gonna go on to choose a sprite, and I'm gonna choose like 5 or 6 sprites that you would place in a room, and some of them would be correct and some of them would be wrong. So actually I'm gonna do one correct, one wrong, and then we will see during the break. If you want, we can move and put it to more objects, but I'm gonna show one correct object, one wrong. So let's go to music. I'm gonna choose the speaker, which of course is the wrong object. You do not want something that heavy above your bed in case of an earthquake. And let's choose, I think there is a rainbow that looks like a poster. Yeah, let's choose the rainbow as the correct item, which could be a poster which you would want above your bed. It doesn't matter if it falls down during an earthquake, it's super light. First things first, I want to have them placed to a specific location. I do not want them randomly around the room. So what I have to say is what will happen to them when the backdrop is switched to level 1, so when level 1 begins. just as I did with the cat. Zoom in a bit. Okay, so I say when backdrop switches to level 1, the first thing I want the speaker to do, let's say it will go to this point. So I'm gonna go to motion, and as you remember, our coordinates are already placed into the command. All I have to do is drag and drop it. Another thing I would like to do is have it be a little bit smaller. I think its size is too big. We said you can change the size from here, but I'm also gonna show you a command that changes the size of a sprite inside the game. And it's in looks, and it's the one that says change set size to. I want to set it to, let's say, 70%. I do not want it that big. And another thing I have to do is have the speaker show. This I do before, because to the next levels I'm going to create, I know that I'm not going to be using the speaker as a part of the level. So I know that the next level does not need the speaker, so I'm going to have it hide. So here I want it to show. So now every time I click on the green flag, the backdrop switches to level 1, and then every time the backdrop switches to level 1, I have these commands happening, and you can see everything that we programmed the cat to do, it just did, and also our speaker just did the same. So let's do the same for the rainbow. Let's have these copied to the rainbow. I drop them here. The only difference is I want the rainbow to have different coordinates. So I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna put the rainbow here where I want it, and then I'm gonna go grab the command with the coordinates, and let's see if I put them into random places, what happens when I click on the green flag. They all go to their respective places. Okay, so now I have created all the items, I would say, for the first level. As I said, we're gonna use more items. I'm just gonna show you one wrong item to put up above your bed, one right item, and then you can add a lot more if you want. What we need to do, this is like a really important part of any game, I would say, is to create the score variable. So basically a variable is like data that has that can take different values throughout our game, throughout our code or program. So first things first, we need to create it. I'm gonna go to variables. You can see that there is already a variable built. It's called my variable, but I'm gonna create a new one. Make a variable. I'm gonna call it score. I'm going to choose the option for all sprites because I want it to be I want to be able to change it from all sprites coding. I'm going to click OK, and I have the score variable. As you can see, because it is clicked on it, I can find it here inside my game. I can see it here, and you can also move it around. But I'm going to leave it here on the top left corner. And now what do I want to do with the variable? I want to set it to 0 because every time my game starts, which side is every time I click on the flag, I want my variable to go to 0. So I'm gonna need an event and say when the green flag is clicked, go to variables, and I want to set not my variable but score. I want to set the variable score to 0. Okay, so let's see what happens now when we click on either of these items. So the user is prompted to click on the items you would put above your bed. Let's see what happens with the correct item. So let's say the user clicks on the rainbow. I'm gonna go to events and I'm gonna say when this sprite is clicked. You can see the command is ready, it's super easy. When the sprite is clicked, what do I want to happen? I want the sprite to say correct. This is an easy way to give feedback again to the user, having your components say the feedback. So I want to say correct. And after that, I want to go to the correct place, which is above the bed as a poster. So I move it here. And just as we did before, I'm gonna go on to motion and go to X and Y coordinates, which is ready for me. And now it's time to have the score changed. So I'm gonna go to variables and do change variable, but not this one, change score by 10. Let's say if you click on the correct item, you get 10 points. And let's see if this works. I'm gonna click on the rainbow. It says correct. It goes the correct place, and you saw my score went up by 10 points. And as you can imagine, all I have to do is duplicate this one, go to speaker, and I have to change two things. First of all, I want to say false, or again, the feedback you want to write here is whatever you prefer. Have the speaker go to this place and not above the bed. Oh, okay, let me stop the game. First, I need to delete the wrong coordinates, have the speaker to the correct place where I want it, and then grab the command with the correct coordinates. And this time I do not want the score to change by 10, but by minus 10. Okay, because of course when it's wrong, you do not want the user to gain in score. So let's test it again. When I click on the flag, everything goes to its correct position, and when I click on the speaker, it says false. You saw my score went to minus 10 because I start from 0. And when I click on the rainbow, which is a correct thing to put above your bed, my score went to 0 because minus 10 plus 10, 0. Okay, so one thing we haven't done yet, or we did it, let me see, no. We said that the cat gives the feedback to the user that when you're done with your first level, in order to go to the next one, you can press space. But we haven't programmed that. So what we can do is go to backdrops. Remember, you can also code the backdrops, which is really useful. We have already placed a script, and we're gonna place another one, which will say, let me see, space, 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 here. Okay, when space key pressed, what do you want to happen? I want you to go to the next backdrop, which is basically the next level. So I'm gonna choose this command. It's super easy. It just says every time you press space, go to the next backdrop. For the user, that means they will see a different level. Okay, so this is basically the end of level 1. As I said before, the more you can do is like add more items. So here I only have the rainbow and the speaker, but you could add, for example, what else could be heavy and you do not want it above your bed? Let's see. You can add a radio. So you can place it here, drag and drop the code from the speaker into the radio, make the changes that you need to change. Of course, one of the first changes you need to make is the coordinates. So let me change its coordinates. And since the radio is a heavy object, no, I don't want to go there. I'm sorry. Here. Okay. Yeah, since the radio is a heavy object, I do not want it, I want to be false. So when the sprite click, say false, and go to, let's place it here, okay? So I'm gonna need this. Let's place it in its place where I want to go, get the coordinates, and of course change score by minus 10. And I think this is also wrong. Yeah. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, all the items are in their correct position when we start. When I click on the rainbow, it says correct, it goes above the bed. When I click on the speaker, it says false, and it goes to another location, and the same happens with the radio. And you can put many more items and give the feedback to the user that you want to give for prevention during earthquakes. So yeah, this is level 1. I don't know if everybody has anybody has a question before. Actually, do we have a break now?
Actually, it is. You said prevention during an earthquake, but I suppose it's prevention before an earthquake.
No,
an
before
earthquake happens.
Okay.
Anyway, we're still in schedule, and we would like to thank you for being so collaborative with us, in the sense that you are following up and there are no. Please slow down. Now I can see we try to go from one browser to other. Why is that? If you are using 2 browsers, I don't know which operating system you're under, but you could split the browsers in 2, just like I'm doing at the moment. It might be a little bit smaller, the Scratch window, but in any case, you don't need to have that big windows. Yes, we will slow down because we were going to have a short break at the moment, and you will have the chance to make your questions live by raising your hand. Since there are a lot of Greeks, something that we expected that would happen. This doesn't mean that we are going to speak in Greek, because it will be Greek to everybody else, as expected. In case you want to make a question, please do so in English. So we have, I think that Manuel has forgotten his hand. I don't think that he wants to ask anything. It was Alexandra. I saw Alexandra raising her hand. So far, so good. I suppose that there is a lot of information for you. It's all together. I mean, we're doing a webinar on things that in some webinars that people pay for, we're talking about information that would take at least a couple of lessons of sessions to talk about, but it's okay. Since it's free of charge, you can bear with us. We want to still give you a lot more than you would expect. When I split my screen, I cannot see all of your screen. That's right. Yes.
Actually, what we can do for anyone that the pace is too fast, now that we have a break, I can give you some time to either copy. I can leave them open so you can either copy them, or you can ask me about something that I have already said if you want, you need some help with it.
In the meantime, I would like to remind you, in the form where you put your name in order for you to receive your certificate, in order for us to know that you were here. I have to admit I didn't expect so early 5 answers. In fact, we cannot accept such answers because there are no Scratch links inside. It's technically impossible for you to have produced anything. We don't need you to send us a link of what you did with the cat in the first stage. We just need you to submit a link of the actual game that we are creating at the moment. So let's consider the 5 responses that have already arrived in our survey. Let's consider these answers non-valid, because actually you haven't submitted anything relevant to the game. So this means that you should try again. I have closed down the survey for the time being because it's totally useless. So let me remind you that we have this form. If you want to get your hands on a digital certificate of attendance, you will have to fill in your name. You will have to write down your email address. There is something that I added, I think. Okay, give me a couple of seconds.
Let me answer to Anastasia. Actually, yes. Okay, so whoever has it's easy for them to actually follow along. as I do the steps, and you can copy them at the same time. That would be great. Otherwise, of course, I understand you can only watch, and then you can start replicating them when we have our break. So I think now is the time to actually replicate my steps. That's why I said for whoever didn't, whoever missed something or is not sure about the command, you can ask me now, and I will leave it open here so you can copy them if you want to. Let me put it here so you can see all the commands. These are the commands for the cat. So I just remind everybody what we have done. We created 4 different scripts, each one for every keyboard key, so the cat can move. So basically these 4 scripts are for movements of the cat. This script here is to set the score to 0, is what happens when we start the game and we want our variable to be set to 0. And this one, the script says when backdrop switches to level 1 is so that the main character, which is the cat, knows what to do. And this is our 6th script for the cat. And for each item, we have 2 different scripts. One is what happens when you go to level 1, just as we did with the cat. We need to let the sprites know what will happen to them when we are on level 1. And the other one is when the user interacts with them. So here, when you have the items, user interaction is just clicking on them. So the script starts with a command that says when the sprite clicked.
We have Georgia, who is raising her hand. Okay. You might need to ask something. You have the word.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I can't see the chat. It says to me chat in channel meetings is only available to team members. And that's why I can't, for example, write something down. And secondly, tell me.
Let me answer this one first. Okay. Maybe you came in the party a little bit with a slight delay. We said we have already included this information in the document that we sent you via emails. We cannot technically keep the chat box open for so many people. This is a restriction that comes from the Microsoft Teams application that we use in the university. So this is why we have directed you to an online chat application where people can write down their questions. You can do this in parallel. So okay. If you want me to share my screen, you can.
I'll find it, Spiros, don't worry, I'll find it. I can look at it.
You can see what you should visit. This is the page you should. It is in the PDF document that you received.
Yeah, okay. My mistake then.
No problem. If you want to make any question, just use that.
Okay. And the other question is, so you want us to replicate what Martina presented and Maritina and send the link to you? Is that what we have to do, or create a new project?
Okay, maybe stating that you have to replicate it to be contrary to what we try to teach to teachers. We should not ask for kids to replicate phases and programs. We have to explore this together. But in our case, since we don't have that much time, we are asking you to follow our steps and, of course, replicate what we are doing on the screen. Of course, there could be chances for you to, to improvise. But of course, for the time being, especially for those that haven't used Scratch in the past, it would be a nice practice to replicate, to copy what Martina is at the same time. And maybe you will have the chance to explore it better at a later stage. So yes, actually, we are asking you to follow the steps that Martina is showing to you, and whenever you have a problem or question, we can solve the problem through a question.
Okay, thank you.
So let me remind you, since Okay, I would like to share my screen again. Okay, so I will remind you that in order for you to receive your certificate of attendance, I insist on this because we might receive questions from every single person in the webinar after the end of the webinar. Where is my certificate? You will receive your certificates as long as you take the last step, which is this one. You can still find the link in your in the PDF that we sent you in yesterday's email. This is an online survey where you will put your name and surname, your address, your email address. I added a new option, which is this one. Let me give you the preview. Just give me a second. As you can see, I stopped accepting responses because the responses that you already provided are not the ones that we are looking for. Sorry, guys. So this is how the online form is going to look for you. You will put your name and surname, your email address. I added a new field where I had to put the link for the evaluation that we ask you to provide regarding this webinar. You will first visit this link, fill in the answers, and then return to this one. Paste the link of your Scratch creation only when the webinar is close to its end. Which means that, as I said at the beginning of the webinar, we don't need you to provide anything perfect. Your game will be imperfect, will have an amateurish flavor. Of course, we don't expect you to develop a perfect game. It might not work. It might even not work. We fully understand it, but we need you to provide us some proof of concept, some proof that you were here with us and at least you tried to produce something. So this means that before the closing of the event, you will have to visit the link that you have in the PDF in yesterday's email. I will copy paste the link as well in the chat, but I suppose that not all the people are in there. I strongly advise you to go in the chat and take a look at the link I'm going to copy paste right now. Okay, so do we have any further questions about the actual process? You're here, is it you? No, Georgia forgot her hand. As we said before, and we will get back to work, excuse me, we are trying to develop a mini game. One of the missions of this mini game is exactly what you saw before in the first scene. It's like talking with kids about what not to do, what to avoid, in order for them not to get in trouble when an earthquake occurs. We are going to develop a second scene, a second scenario as well, and you can add as many scenes as you need to. It's unlimited. I mean, the sky is the limit. You can add as many scenes as you want, depending on the scenario, depending on the learning activity. It could also be one level, one scene game. Maybe the kids would be asked to accomplish a mission in a single level. This is something that we don't advise because it's not that inspiring for kids. So we're trying to engage them in interesting activities, and asking them to create one level, one scene game would not be very engaging for them, I suppose. Okay, I suppose that we can go on if everybody's okay with this. Okay. Are there any questions technically wise? Okay, let me see. Can we do it now? Martina says we do have the same on our account, the person will watch. Okay, this is something that we explained before. You can still watch, of course, and you will have the chance to watch again the video that we are going to upload in the following days. If you want to repeat the same steps, you can do it now. You can copy Martina's scripts. You can take some time, of course. Martina, do we have the scripts online? Are you sharing your? Okay.
I'm sharing my screen.
Okay, so you can copy the scripts. I am the presenter. Okay, I'm gonna cancel my share screen so you have. So we have someone from Sri Lanka, which is amazing, to be honest. We have a lot of people from all parts of the world, and this is something that really surprises me. And we are very glad to have you here. I'm sorry I cannot read your name. It's a little bit difficult. I don't want to pronounce it in a bad way. You're from Sri Lanka. Due to time difference, you're not able to stay until the discussion finishes. Yes, you can fill the survey form, but as I said before, there will be no actual link to the game. However, for those of you that have been with us up to now, I will open up the form to submissions, but please submit your opinion about the webinar so far. This means that we need you to answer to the second survey, so I'm gonna open it up right now. Those of you that have already responded, please take a visit again. There are 5 people that did answer, but please return to the form at the end of the webinar, and please follow the link in order to leave us your feedback about the webinar. It's very, very important for us. We need to know your opinion.
Okay.
So we have another question.
Yeah, so Irene is asking, could you show us again how we can have the choice of score? So I'm guessing you're asking how to create the variable of score. So I have to go to variables. Irene, I don't know, that was your question, correct? How to create the variable. If you want, you can also turn on your microphone if it's easier, or I'm just gonna show this, and if it's not what you ask.
This was my question, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so basically I come here down to variables, and let's say score wasn't an option, because I'm guessing it's not an option for you right now. So I have to make a variable. So I create a new one. I name it score. So basically you can name it anything you want. Like I could have a game where instead of score, my character could have 3 lives. So the variable would be lives, or whatever else you want your game to have as a component. So here it's displayed score. I'm gonna write score 1 now. Click OK, and now I have also the option for score 1. And depending on which of these variables I want to use during the game, I just click on them. So now you can see I have all 3 of them, but I do not need this one, and I do not need this one, so I just unclick them.
We have another question.
Okay.
I think it's pronounced like this.
How to move up the cat. Okay, so this is done here. This is the script to move it up. What you have to say is when up arrow key pressed. You will find this here in events, and what it will be saying when space key pressed. all you have to do is click onto the drop-down menu next to space, and you will find the rest of the buttons. Actually, you can make your cat move around with any of the keyboard letters or numbers. We just prefer to do it with arrows because it's easier. So all you have to do is go here, when up arrow key pressed, and bring it here. You just change the costume so it seems like it's moving, and you change Y by 10. Why? Because your cat, when it goes up and down, it moves on the Y axis.
You have a question for Cindy? I'm gonna give her the word.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I have a question. Can you go to your Scratch and click up to left arrow, the code in left arrow? I want to see your cat because I have right the same and my cat go up and down.
Okay, so basically when you click on your left arrow, your cat doesn't go to the left, but it goes up or down, you said?
No. My cat go to minus 180. 180.
Okay, so it goes to a specific point into the stage.
Click to your code. To your code in left arrow.
Yeah, I'm here.
Click on.
Click on the left arrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you see in the left. Your cat see on the left. My cat go to 1 minute. You see. My cat go has the direction.
It looks, so it moves to the left, but it looks to another way?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm guessing you have not done is, okay, choose your sprite, the cat, and go here on the properties that says direction. Click on it.
I know Scratch.
Okay.
But again, I have right the same as you.
Okay. Have you chosen this type of direction, which is the linear, or have you chosen the one that is with the arrow, the circular arrow?
I choose. Okay. Sorry. No. I choose. I move the arrow to minus 90.
Okay, you do not need to move the arrow. You just see above, under the circle that it has with the degrees, there are 3 different buttons. The first one is a circle. The second one is like 2 arrows. And the third,
I understand. Okay.
You need to choose the second one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, try it and let me know if it doesn't work, so we can see what else. Yeah.
Θα το δούμε. Στο σπίτι. Τίποτα αυτά. Ανάψαμε. Εκεί πάει το τζάκι.
Give me a second. Okay, I make it work. Thank you.
Great. Great. Okay, so I think I saw another question, but it was about the levels. Okay, how we create levels, we will solve it now. Actually, how can you repeat how to move up our cat? I think we showed that, and I think we're ready to go to the next stage.
We still have a couple of questions, I suppose.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think it's Lena and Maria.
Okay, yeah.
Can I ask something?
Of course.
Yes.
The chat isn't available for me.
You mean that you clicked on the link?
Yes.
You found in the PDF and it's not available because I can see it running at the moment. The chat of the DMS chat is, as we explained before in the PDF document, is not available for technical issues. So this means that you have to make use of the online chat that we have written to you about in the PDF. Have you found the link? If you look into the PDF we mailed you yesterday, you can find the instructions. So if you want to, you need to write down anything, make use of the online chat. I think it was Maria, the one that spoke before. Okay, Maria, you have the word if you want to make a question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you please show me again how to change the direction of the cat when I have the left arrow, because I can't figure this out.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, so as I said, the first thing you have to do is make your cat direction linear and not circular. So first thing is to choose the cat and go up here to the properties that says direction, click on it, and 3 different choices will appear. The first one is a circular arrow, the second one are 2 arrows, and the third one is a circular arrow with a line over it. Basically, if you choose the first one, we said that your character, and you can see it, it moves into 360 degrees, so it does the entire circle. But what we want to do is choose the second one, which is the linear direction. So it either goes onto the right or the left. You can see here, depending on which semicircle I am on, my cat goes right or left. So after I have chosen this option, which is the middle one, I have clicked on it, then I can go onto the commands that say when an arrow key is pressed, and point in direction -90 when I want my cat to look onto the left, and +90, just to put 90, point in direction 90 when I want my cat to look on its right. I don't know if that answered your question or you meant something different.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I think Lena also has a question, or?
Sorry for interrupting. I have a major problem because everything I've done till now got lost because it says, look like we have issues with our servers.
Oh.
Went out. I printed the screen, but I'm sorry, I haven't done anything till now. This is the problem.
Okay, don't worry. Actually, if you were logged in as a user, Scratch usually auto-saves the project. Like you can see here, I can do save now, but Scratch usually auto-saves every few, I don't know, minutes or so. So maybe, if you're lucky enough, you can go here. You can go here to your stuff and see your projects.
Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry for interrupting. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, I don't know if Alexandra, I think you raised your hand. No?
Yes. How can I find? Where can I find the link of my project?
Okay. We will show that actually in the end, and we will see how to share projects and what else you will need to do. So we will talk about sharing your project.
Okay, I suppose that we should go on because
okay,
we're going to run out of time.
Okay, correct. Okay, so we're done with our first level, as we said, and now it's time to go to the next level. And we said that the easiest way to have the user distinguish between different levels is have different backdrops. So all we need for level 2 is a new backdrop. So I'm gonna go here onto backdrops. Here, and since I only have one, I'm gonna go here, and this time I'm going to paint backdrop. So I'm gonna choose the second option. It says paint, and what we're gonna create here is like kind of something like a maze. So all I need is the line tool. The tools here in Paint are pretty basic. They're super easy to figure out. It's like lines, buckets. You can have letters. This is in order to erase, and like a paintbrush. So I'm just gonna need the line tool. I'm gonna make it bright red, and all I have to do is create something that looks like a maze. Basically, it's like a route that I want my sprite to make in order to collect some items. So the items that my sprite will have to collect are going to be all items that you should have into a prevention kit, maybe not earthquake prevention kit, earthquake preparedness kit. Anyway, into a kit that would, in case of an earthquake, would seem very useful. So yeah, you can have something like that as the maze. It should be pretty simple, this line, but it should also be roomy enough so that your sprite can move around it and doesn't get stuck. Because another thing we can do is have those lines be points where your sprite shouldn't touch the walls of the maze and it loses point. So make it a bit roomier than mine, probably. Okay, so my maze is ready. You can also see that my backdrop has already been here on the stage, so I can also see its size and how it's going to respond with my sprites. So I'm gonna go back to
I'm answering to a comment on the chat. We are trying to keep a steady pace in order to satisfy all the needs. We know that you come from different backgrounds and you have different knowledge levels regarding technology and, of course, programming. We don't expect you to know about programming concepts and stuff like this. However, I have to remind you that this webinar should mainly whet teachers' appetite. Let's put it this way. But of course, we will give you time to make your questions and just try to follow the pace as if this is possible, to co-create with us, to replicate what you are seeing on the screen, so that we can discuss a little bit later on the problems. We will slow down, but of course, at the end, you might complain that you didn't have the time to complete your game. Anyway, the screen is small. I know that there are people that might have problems with their gear, with their hardware. The smaller the screen, the more difficult it is. We understand. We will try to slow down a bit. No worries about it. And you will have the time to make your questions. We'll be here. It's not that we have to end the webinar at 8 o'clock exactly. We are not. We don't have any problem with this. So feel free to ask whatever you need. We will slow down the pace. It will be in order to facilitate you. Okay.
Okay, yes, slow down a bit, of course, so everybody can follow along, or it's easier to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I just did, I'm gonna show it again one more time how I did it. I chose here the stage, and then I went to backdrops. So I can see, as I said before, the different levels. The thing to remember here is I call them levels. The game, like the platform, doesn't understand that they're levels, so keep that in mind. They're basically just pictures for the platform, but I'm gonna call them levels because this is how I'm gonna use these pictures inside my game. So as you remember before, when we chose the room as the first level, I called it level 1. The name of the costume, basically, of the backdrop, I said level 1. So now that I have input a different backdrop, a second one, I'm gonna call that level 2. So it's also easier for me when I'm coding them to distinguish between the two backdrops. Of course, you can give them different names, whatever you prefer. And of course, the maze that I made here is like completely like random. I think is the easiest one that you can make. And of course, it's something that you can create very differently. You can make it either easier or more difficult depending on the game you want to make. I can also show you here what is the route that I want my cat to make. I want to start from this part and have it go basically around the maze without touching the red lines, and it's just gonna finish here. So now maybe it's a bit easier to understand why I draw that thing here. It's not that random. Okay, so now I have level 1 and level 2, basically two different costumes, two different backdrops. And when I'm done with that, now I have to go back to the cat because now it's time to code the cat. So as I said before, every time before I code something, I always have to choose it. So I chose the cat, and I can start say what will happen to it when the backdrop switches to level 2, to the second backdrop. So I'm gonna go here to code, keep in mind always I have chosen the cat, and under all those scripts I'm gonna create a new script. And just like I said here, when backdrop switches to level 1, this time I'm gonna duplicate actually, it's gonna be much easier. And this time I want to say what will happen to the cat when backdrop switches to level 2. So when the backdrop is the maze that we just created. First of all, I want to place my cat to the correct position. So I'm gonna delete the coordinates that I just copied from level 1. I don't need them anymore. I'm gonna place my cat at the beginning of the maze. Here, let's say I want it. And now I'm gonna drag and drop the command with the correct coordinates. Remember I said before, I'm gonna repeat it if somebody missed it, that this is something really cool Scratch does. In order for me to avoid having to input manually the coordinates of X and Y axis every time into this command, which is a very common command we use in Scratch, what Scratch does is wherever my sprite is, it just grabs the coordinates and places them here automatically. So if I put my Scratch here, you can see the coordinates have changed. So I do not have to put them manually. That's why you see me every time deleting the block, placing my cat where I want, and then getting again the same block, but with different coordinates this time. And I didn't even have to input them. So when backdrop switches to level 2, I want my cat to go to these coordinates at the beginning of the maze, and I want to give to the user a new feedback. How do you play this game? How do you finish this level? And what my user will have to do here, as I said before, is collect the items that you should have into a prevention, I don't know, how do we call it? In an earthquake first aid kit, maybe. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a question from Mohammed. Let's see if it's something that has to be solved now. Mohammed, you have the word.
Mohammed, I think you have your microphone is off. Can you turn it on first?
Yeah, hear me?
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I want when the last instruction is, say, when space is pressed, go to the next level, but the instruction go to the next level, where is it?
Where is that instruction? Okay. Yes. This is a script for the stage. So when I go to the stage, you can see here I have two scripts. One says what will happen when the game starts, and the other is when space key pressed.
It's on the script, okay.
Yeah, it's on the code of the script, because as I said, the stage is part of the game, so of course you can also code it, as you can code the characters.
All right, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the game. Okay, and as I said, I'm gonna give the feedback to the user through my cuts, through my main character is the easiest way to do it, and I'm gonna say collect only the most useful, only the useful items for a earthquake kit. I don't know how to phrase it, but of course this is, as I said before, the feedback is something you can change it. Even if it's better for you, you can write it in your own language. It doesn't have to be in English, of course. Everybody can use their own language here. First aid earthquake kit. Okay, so when the backdrop switches to level 2, so the moment we get this backdrop, my cat now knows to go to this place and then inform the user. As you can see, inform the user how do you play this level, so it gives the feedback to the user. And after I have done this, I also have it prompt the user to press a space to go to the next level, as we did on level 1 when the backdrop was the first level. So now we're ready that we have our cat able to move around the maze and also has given our the user the necessary prompts. I think it's time to input some new sprites that are gonna be used into this level. What I'm gonna do, just as I did before with the speaker, the radio and the rainbow, I'm gonna have them hidden actually. No, the correct thing to do is this. We have to go to each one of these items that were from the previous level and let them know what will happen to them when we go to level 2. Because as you can imagine, I do not need them for level 2. So what I'm gonna do is go to the speaker and have here a new script that says what will happen to the speaker when my backdrop switches to level 2. And of course, the only thing that I want to happen to it is for it to hide. I do not need it for level 2, I just want it to be hidden, so it's not in the way. So the only command I have to give is hide. It's that simple. And these two commands, I will drag and drop them into also the rainbow and the radio, because also these are sprites from the previous level. I do not need them anymore. So let's see that happens. I press the green flag. Of course, we're transported to the first level, the first backdrop. And when I press space, it will go to the maze. And what we want to see happening here is these 3 items disappear. And they do disappear. So now we can finally go and bring new sprites for level 2. Just as I did on the first level that I told you, I'm not going to input a lot of items because it's going to be confusing and it's going to be time consuming. It's something you can do as practice later at home. So I'm just going to have 2 items again. One is the correct item that you have to collect. So one is a useful item to have in a first aid earthquake kit, and I'm gonna input another item that would be it would not be useful for a first aid earthquake kit, so the user shouldn't pick it up. Okay, So I think a really useful item would be to have a water. So here we have a glass of water, it doesn't have a bottle of water, but let's pretend. That's the magic of gaming, you pretend. So let's pretend this is a bottle of water, which is something, of course, we want our user to grab. And let's also have, I don't know, what would be completely useless during an earthquake, maybe a gift. Yeah, unfortunately, we do not want gifts during an earthquake. So I'm just gonna put them in some random positions and I'm gonna start coding them. I'm gonna choose the glass water first, and just as I did to the previous sprites, basically the whole concept is what do you want to happen to the sprite when something into the game changes. The biggest change into our game is going from level to level. So what I want to say again is what will happen to the glass water when the backdrop switches to, when the backdrop switches to level 1. Yes, of course, I have to code the glass water, what will happen to it in level 1, even though it's only part of level 2. This is something our code doesn't know it yet, we have to say it. So when backdrop switches to level 1, I just wanted to hide. I just don't need it for level 1, so I just want to hide. And now is the important part for the glass water. What will happen when I switch to level 2? So first things first I want to do is resize it. It's quite big. So I'm gonna go here and set size to maybe 60%. And then I wanted to go to a specific location inside the maze. I do not want random items into random places. So I'm gonna place it here, and just as I always do, I'm gonna go to motion and go to X and Y, and the coordinates, as you can see, are already there for me. I don't even have to put them manually. And now the last thing, and really important, never forget that in Scratch, when you hide an item, you also have to make it show. So when it's set to the correct size, gone to the correct position, now it's time to show up. And it will show now. And I think before going to the present, before we code the present, I think we should finish the code for the glass of water, so we can just duplicate it after and put it into the gift. So now my cat can navigate through the maze and it can actually go to the glass of water, but as you can see, it will not, nothing will happen, they do not interact. So this is where the important part comes. This is where the interaction between two different sprites comes, and this is part of sensing. It's like a sensor, basically. And what I want to say now, I need a conditional statement. Basically, I need an if statement. I think most of you probably know what it is. If you don't, it's really easy to understand and you will see it right now. Basically, I want to make a statement, and depending on whether this statement is true or false, my sprite will have a different reaction. So the statement I want to make is, are you touching the cat? Because as you can see, I'm coding the glass water. So the glass water is, am I touching the cat? So I want to go to sensing, back to the glass water, and get the first command. And as you can see, it does not say touching the cat, it says touching mouse pointer. And right next to it, there is a drop-down menu. I click on it and I choose the cat. And of course, as you can see, you can choose all of the other sprites, and you can also choose the mouse pointer or the edge of the stage. But at this point, we just need to touch the cat. And I crop this condition, and as we said in the beginning, condition, Boolean conditions, commands are into this rhombus shaped, and you can see it perfectly fits right into the if statement. So what this does, this conditional statement does, is it checks whether this is true or false. Am I touching the cat? If this is true, if these are the one onto each other, then what do I want to happen? I just want the glass to hide, because just like any arcade game, I don't know if you've played, when you touch the item, it usually disappears. It means you've eaten it. So I'm gonna go to looks and I'm gonna choose hide. And another really important thing I want to happen is for my score to go up. Because of course, when I grab the glass of water, is a really useful item to have during an earthquake, and I want the score of my user to go up. Just as we did before, I'm gonna go to variables, and all I have to do is change score variable by 10. Let's give them 10 points every time you grab the glass water. And that would be done, but okay, let me show you. As you can see, when I go onto the glass, nothing happens. And why is that? This happens because in coding, every command happens linear. So every command waits for the previous command to be executed, and then it happens. So the first command waits for the first command is when backdrop switches to level 2. So the moment this command happens, all the other ones, the one after the other, also happen. So the size is set to 60%, it goes to the coordinates, it shows up, and it instantly checks, because like the machines that are processing these are very powerful, very quick, like in gigahertz. They're super quick, so it happens very, very instantly. So very quickly, our machine checks, am I touching the cut? Is the glass water touching the cut? And of course, because in the beginning of the game, the cut is here, the glass water is here, so it's not touching. So this statement is false. And since the statement is false, it skips all those steps in here, and it goes down, which means nothing happens. The script ends after the if. So what we want to do to help the game is have this statement be constantly checked. We need to have this if statement constantly checked if it's happening or not, and not just one time. So I'm gonna go to control. I'm gonna choose a loop. I'm gonna choose the forever loop. And I'm gonna put this statement inside the loop. So now what happens, these commands, the first 3 commands, only happen once. The moment the backdrop switches to level 2, the first 3 commands just happen in like milliseconds. And then every millisecond, let's say, it's not the correct value, but let's say every millisecond, this command inside the forever loop, it's checked. So it doesn't just happen once, it happens constantly. So I can go here, and as you saw, my cat just touched the glass water and it disappeared. And my score went up by 10.
Martina, by the way, because we have a question, a relevant question. Vasiliki is asking if we can see each item's code again. So this means that they might need to revise a little bit each object, each item's separate code. So let's give them the chance, give to the people the chance to revise a bit the separate code for each item, and stop by a little bit, so they might have a couple of questions. And
okay, actually we've reached like the end of the scripts for the second items, for the items for level 2. We haven't put it to the gift yet, but we do not need to do that. So basically this is the whole code for the time for the glass water. So yes, of course, we can revise its items, its sprites code.
And another thing to say is that not only you will get access to the video, the webinar video, which will facilitate maybe your experimentation with Sprite further after the end of the webinar, but we might distribute some photos of the code, or actually you can have access to the project itself, in the sense that if we give you access to the project, to the link, we give you the link, we share the link with you, you will be able to go back to the project again and copy the code locally on your computer. So this means that we don't need to reproduce anything. You can get into the project itself and experiment with the code yourself. So the actual project we are developing now will be openly available, accessible by anybody, since you have the link, which of course we are going to share with you. Okay. Maybe I think that the question had to do with all the objects, with all the items. So let's give them a quick look again.
Okay. So I'm gonna have them here. I'm gonna have them here on the screen, and I'm gonna talk over them. So you can either listen to what I'm saying or just like see the commands and copy them. So I say once more for the cat's movement, we have used the arrow commands, and for each arrow we have changed the X value or the Y value by 10 or minus 10. Minus 10 is when we want to go left or down, and plus 10 is when we want to go right or up. We've also put the command that says next costume. This is just for fun. You do not have to do that for your game to be functional. It's just for fun so that you can see your character moving its legs. And I also remind everybody that the direction, we change it from here into the sprite properties section. If you go into direction, you have to have the rotation choice on the second one that says left or right, which is the linear one, and not onto the first one, which is the circular arrow. You need the second choice. Yeah, so another thing we're doing here in the beginning when we're setting up the game is creating the score variable. So we know, so the user knows what his or her score is, and we set it up to begin from 0, of course. But like you can imagine here, if we had another variables, that would be lives. Lives wouldn't be set up to 0. They would be set up to 10 or 3 or I don't know how many ever lives you want your character to have. So keep that in mind, that 0 here is your choice depending on what you want your variable to do. And after that, what we're doing is letting our sprite know what will happen to it every time we change level. And as I said before, level is what we call its backdrop. Scratch doesn't understand what a level is. We just create it to be a level. So basically what you have to say here is one of the backdrop switches to backdrop 1 or backdrop 2, what will happen to the sprite. I think I can go to the next sprite maybe. Okay, so the next one is the speaker, which has basically the same code as the rainbow and the radio. Those 3 first sprites are all for the purposes of the first level. So what we want to do is let them know what will happen to them, just as we did with the cat. What will happen to them when the backdrop switches to level 1? And I want them into specific positions. I want their size to 7%, and then I want them to show up, because I need them, of course, for the first level. But just as I need them for the first level, you can see right here, I say when the backdrop switches to level 2, I just want you to hide. I don't need you anymore. Just hide, and I don't care about the rest of the code. And another thing is what will happen when the user interacts with you, and how does the user interact with you. We said in the first level, the user will just need to click on the correct items to place above your bed, which of course should be light items and not heavy ones in case of an earthquake. So when the sprite clicked, which basically means when the user interacts with you, since this is a speaker, I want you to say false. You shouldn't place the object above your bed, go to another position and change the score by -10 because it was a wrong choice of the user. And the exact same code we have in the radio, the only difference being it doesn't go to the same position as the speaker, we just chose a different position inside the room. And the score, of course, it's changed by -10. And lastly, the rainbow, which is also an item for the first level. Just as we did with the speaker and the radio, we wanted to go to a specific place into the level, into the backdrop, set its size 70% and have it show up. And on level 2, I just wanted to hide, I don't need it anymore. And what will happen when the user interacts with you, when you're clicked? I want you to say correct because of course you want a rainbow above your bed, because why not? And it's also because it's supposed to be a poster, so it's a light object. And you just need the score to change by 10. You want to give points to the user since he made the correct choice. Should I go on? Because I think now I only have the glass water. Is everybody okay? Do you want me to go back to another item or I should go to the glass water? I don't know. If somebody needs me to stay longer on this sprite, I can do so. Okay. Maybe I can go to the glass water now. Okay, so the glass water basically is an item for the second level. So when I switched to level 1, I just wanted to hide because I do not need it on the first level, which is the bedroom. It doesn't have a purpose there. But when I switched to level 2, now I want to set it up. So decide its size, decide its position, and then I want it to show. And I want, how do you interact with the user? So I have the same question that I was asking before on the other items. I'm asking again on the glass water, how do I interact with the user? We have decided that interaction will be for the user to use the arrows and bring the cat onto the glass water, so it kind of eats it, I would say, just like Pac-Man would do with the little dots. It's kind of the same action. So I want to say if, which is a statement inside here, and the statement being touching the cat. So what this conditional statement here if does, it checks if this statement is true or false. It's just like 0, 1, nothing else. If it's true, the commands inside the if statement will happen, but if the statement is false, it will just skip them and go to the end of the code. And since I want this statement to be checked all the time during the level 2, I want this to happen forever. Okay? I don't know if everybody's okay with that. Okay, so I can start talking about the gift. It's pretty much the exact same code. We only have to make one small change. So what I can do is have the first piece of code drag and dropped into the gift. You see it's shaking, so I guess it's here. Perfect, it came. And I can also drag and drop the second part of the code, the second script, into the gift. It's here, perfect. And let me make a very small change. I think you probably have already guessed it. I just need to change the coordinates. So I'm gonna have the gift first. Actually, I'm gonna delete the previous coordinates, which are of the glass water. I do not want the one onto the other, of course. I'm gonna place the gift somewhere here into the maze. I'm gonna go into motion, grab the new coordinates, and continue with my code. And of course, another important thing here to do is, we said that if the user grabs the gift, it's wrong, because you do not want that during an earthquake. So the only other change we have to do is change score by -10. I do not want to give points for grabbing the wrong items. I want to reduce points from your score, so it goes to -10. That's basically the scripts for the second level items. And we're pretty much done. All we have to do is like add your win screen or like an ending screen. Or if you do not want to do that, we can just leave it here and have our sprite check the score. And if the score is above 50 or above 30, have the sprite say you win or you get a gold medal. And if the sprite is below 50, we can have the sprite say you lose or you get a silver medal. I don't know what you guys prefer, to make it more complicated or to just have the score checked at this point into the game. You could give me some feedback to the chat if you prefer the easy way or the bit more complicated. I'm gonna leave also this on the screen so you can copy it if you want.
I wanted to say something that I'm just looking at the position of the gift at the moment. I suppose that it could be easier for the player, for the user, not to have to necessarily interact with the gift, because as it is positioned right now, you will necessarily touch it. I mean, this is what I want to comment on, because there are sometimes some design flows that will not permit to the user to actually use the game as we intended as designers. So we have to be really, really careful with positions, with dimensions of the objects, because they could actually ruin the purpose of the game. This is just a detail. Of course, it needs a bit of experience. That's why there are people that study game design. It's not that easy to create a fully professional and polished game, but okay, we don't need to be professionals here. We are just teachers that want to make use of the tools in a very creative way with the kids in the classroom. We don't advise you to learn how to use Scratch in order for you to create projects that your students will make use of. We urge you to learn with the kids. There are sometimes during some activities that even we learn with kids. We learn something new every day. So working with the kids, interacting with the kids, and solving the same problems that kids have, I think it's the most creative experience for both sides. I suppose, Martina, that we shouldn't make it heavier, because I have the feeling that people are overwhelmed with information. So we don't want them to leave this webinar disappointed and maybe discouraged. We need to do the opposite. So I suppose that we should put an end, a fairly easy, code-wise, a fairly easy ending to the game, which will only announce the final score, maybe.
Okay, perfect. So let's just have the final score announced, yeah, if you win or lose, and that would be it. So actually we have, I think the easiest way to do that, to be honest, is to create another backdrop. I know it sounds counterproductive, but it is the easiest way. So I'm just gonna go to backdrops here, and I have level 1, level 2, and I'm just gonna choose a random image. I can just have this blue sky, which will be the ending screen. Okay, so all I have to do right now is go to my cat, and again, just as I did before, say what will happen to the cat when you're onto the ending screen. So when backdrop switches to ending screen, I just wanted to check the score. So again, I need a conditional statement which says if. I'm not gonna show if else. Let me think if we can make it easier. No, actually, we can do it this way. It's not that hard. I can use this one that basically waits for a condition here, and the condition could be if the score is above 20 or above 30 or whatever you prefer. What do you want to happen? So I'm gonna go to operators, I'm gonna get an inequality here and place it inside the puzzle. You can see it's very intuitive because I can see that I need a rhombus, so I'm looking for it. And I'm gonna place it here. And how do I put the score being above, let's say, 20? Where will I find the score? Do I write it? No, it's very easy. You go to variables and just grab the score. You can see this little bubble, and you can see that you need a little round command, because also in here it needs a round command. So I'm gonna grab the score value, and if the score is above 20, have my cat say you win, or gold medal, whatever you prefer. Let's say gold for 2 seconds. Else, in the case that the score is not above 20, so it's below, it's 19 or what.
Let's make it above 60.
No, because in the game I have created, I do not have so many points.
Okay, that's good.
I think max point is
that's
like,
a technical
I can have it say, I can have it say silver. And of course, if I want to make it more complicated, I can have another statement that checks if the score is between 20 and 10, and 10 is the silver, and below 10 is the bronze, but that would be a lot more complicated. So now we can just show you the game once again from the beginning. First level, our sprite says which is the correct item. I can click on the rainbow and know it's the correct item to put above your bed. And then I just have to press space to go to the next level. And here it tells me the feedback is that I have to collect some items. Let's see what happens if I collect the present. Oh no, my score went down to 0, but fear not, I can go and grab a glass of water and my score is back to 10. And when I press space here, I can go to the ending screen. It says that I got a silver award since my score is below 20. I will not go into any more details. I think maybe that was enough for one day.
Okay.
So questions?
Here, the final screen is where you can include some feedback. If you want to make it more, if you want to make it richer in terms of content, you can put feedback, you can include feedback according to the score, which means that you can act as a mentor here, and according to the score, you can advise players to do this or that. Or maybe here you could provide explanations on the concepts that you are dealing with in the game. It's not about programming here. It's about creating a game that will make children more aware about natural disasters and earthquakes. This is just a fair example of two levels, I wouldn't call them levels because they're not actually levels, of two scenarios, of two stages of the same game. You can, as we said before, you can make it as big as you want, the game as complicated as you want, but actually, if you want to present a final product for your students to play with, I suppose that it has to be simple. Could you show the script for backdrops? There is a question in the chat.
We only need two commands, two scripts actually for the backdrops. want to set the first level when the game begins, because as I said, in Scratch, the level begins only, the game begins only when you click on the green flag. So I really need this starting script that says what happens when the flag is clicked. And then I just say what happens when I press space.
So far, so good, I think. I know that you might complain about the rich information that we try to provide you with. We understand, we fully understand that in case you are not experts, of course, you're not experts since you are here with us. It could seem a bit difficult for you to get acquainted with the functions, the buttons, the blocks, and the concepts mainly. We fully understand that you might have difficulties. We try to provide you with the basic information, but I would say that it's not only the basic skills. Actually, you can create a very fairly good game if you get to grips with what you saw today. You have the potential, and if you experiment a little bit with what you saw today, you actually have the potential to create a very fair game. So I think that the information that you got today is fairly enough if you want to create a game, a simple but intuitive game. This is the basic skills. These are the basic skills that you have to have if you want to make use of Scratch. Of course, as you dive deeper in the blocks and the game mechanics and the functions, it gets more complicated, but that's life. I suppose that you understand. It's like building up knowledge. Of course, we cannot get in detail for all the blocks. You can understand this, but of course, there are a couple of useful manuals out there. There are Facebook groups that concentrate on Scratch and game design, where you can continue experimenting with Scratch. I suppose that do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, if you want to see the script of Sprite again, because now I'm showing the script for the backdrop. Somebody asked for it.
And there's another question there. You want to see the transition to the final.
The transition to the final screen, actually, it happens with the space button again. It's exactly the same. It just press space to go from screen to screen, because just as I said before, Scratch does not understand that these are levels. They are just backdrops for it. I'm calling it levels. So going to the next backdrop, as you can see here, every time I press space, it goes to the next backdrop. And the next backdrop after the maze is, of course, the ending screen. So all you have to do is press space. Of course, we can have different ways to go there. We can choose to check the score. We can choose to have like a different sprite that you have to touch. This has to do with game mechanics, of course.
We could also end the stage with the X-Y coordinates.
Yeah.
As soon as it reaches the edge of the screen, it could change. Actually, as a typical traditional platform game. This is the last part, the creation. There is a question about how you can sell your creations.
This is the last part.
This is the last part. Before we go on to the last part, which is the final one, of course, I have to let you know that since you might have had some difficulties with the project today, as I said before, we fully understand that it's a little bit difficult for someone that didn't have any experience before. It's okay. It will not interfere with the certificates. You can copy paste a casual link. If you have already created anything, you will see how you can share this project with us. In case you didn't achieve anything because you wanted to follow the steps, Martina's steps, and maybe experiment later on, that's fine by us. You can at the last field of the form, you can copy paste whichever link works for you, so that the survey will be completed for you. But just I wanted to ask you to fill in the survey, the evaluation survey about the webinar. It doesn't have to do with it will just give us some insight and feedback about what we will have to make better the next time we do something like this.
Okay, somebody is asking about the transition through the strings. Just as I said, it happens pressing the space button. If you mean that, Stavroula, I'm not sure. I think that's what you're talking about. How do we go from each level to the next? All you have to do when you're ready, you just press space, and as you can see, it takes you to the next screen.
There are two comments. Manuel is asking about the missing interaction between the cat and the red lines. Of course, this can happen.
We didn't talk about that because we said it was a little bit too much for some people. So I can really quickly show it to you, Manuel, if you want to try it at home. This is not, not everybody has to do that. I'm just gonna show it very quickly. So, Manuel.
It might, I don't think it would be the right idea because they are overwhelmed with information.
No, it's only for Manuel. I think Manuel has.
Okay, let us show to everybody how they can share the project. It's just an added bonus for Manuel if he wants to stay with us after the end of the webinar. But of course, you can put your imagination to work and maybe figure out how to create an interaction script between the line and the cat. I suppose that they can do at the moment if you put some imagination and put your new knowledge in the game. Nikos is commenting that ICT teachers should be involved. We know that, but the target is not exactly ICT teachers, because you know that they are supposedly experts in not only in Scratch but in ICT, as you said, and informatics and programming. We need a mixture of teachers to participate in such projects, because as I said in the beginning, such projects should be interdisciplinary. We should call all specialization, all teachers, all kinds of teachers to work together and produce interdisciplinary projects. This is the value of such projects. We don't need just an ICT teacher to take over the role of supporting kids, because you know well that teachers, regular teachers of other subjects, could contribute with interesting ideas as well. The transmission through the scenes, I think that we have already answered this.
The space button. Okay, so what we can do now. Okay, so what we can do now is I will show you how to share your project and how to see other users' projects, and then I'm gonna stay for 5 more minutes to show anybody who wants to see it, of course, but especially for Manuel, how to make your sprite touch the red lines into the maze and lose points. So, okay, let's go first to see how you share our projects. The easiest ways, since we're already into the screen, you can see up here there is a orange button that says share. If I click on it, it takes me to the finishing project screen. And here, apart from renaming my project, I can also give some instructions to people. I can tell how to play the game, what are the buttons you use, etc. Basically, the how-to. And under that, notes and credits, you can put notes for people, whatever you prefer. So, easiest way, as I said, is down here, there is a blue button that says copy link. Under the notes and credits box, on the bottom right corner, there is a copy link. All you have to do, click it, copy the link up here, either select it, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, or just click copy link, and then you can go and paste it. I'm gonna paste it here in the chat, guys, for you, so you can see actually the finished project, and you can copy mine. and that's how you copy the project and send it to somebody else. Another way you can do that is go to your...
Alexandra wants to ask something.
Okay, yes, Alexandra?
I don't have the share button.
Okay, probably you don't have the share button. Do you have an account? Did you create an account, or you
Yes, I have.
Also, you have your signed in?
I just downloaded Scratch to my computer, and it didn't ask me to log in.
Okay, because when you have the app downloaded onto your computer, it means it's locally, everything happens locally. But actually, there is another way to upload your project. Maybe I should show that as well. Okay, Alexandra, give me a second. If somebody has a question about how to share the project if you are online, on the online platform and not on the app, the downloaded app. And we can see inside. Yes,
maybe
you can
we should see the other way around. We need to look inside someone else's project.
Okay, so yeah.
How can we make use of others' scripts and ideas, remixing their ideas without, of course, stealing their work? Because the basis of the Scratch community is collaborating with each other, sharing knowledge, opening it up to a lot wider audience. So it doesn't have to do with stealing somebody else's work.
Of course, it's like making it different. So I'm gonna show real quick another way to share. I'm gonna go here onto my project, click on it, and then I can do the exact same as I did before. I just click onto the copy link button. I just said that in case you missed it before. So how do I see another person's project, and how do I collaborate with it? How do I make it mine? Okay, so I'm just gonna choose one of the feature projects here. This one, it seems pink, it's cute, I like it. Okay, so I can either click remix, and the moment I click remix, this project, Take Care of Cloudy, it's going to go into my stuff. It's going to go into one of my projects. The other thing I can just do is see inside without copying it to my projects. You can do either of these things. I'm gonna click remix so you can see what will happen. The project saved as remix. You can see here, I can see all the code, I can edit it, it's mine now. I can do whatever I want with it. And if I go to my stuff, into my account, you can now see that I also own this project, but the remix of it. So that's the easier way to edit a project and make it yours, and delete some stuff or put new ideas out there, different from the creators.
The objective of the Scratch community is to remix projects.
Yeah.
Because they are open to everybody in the community. Sharing is caring. This is the motto of the community. But as soon as you have put another person's project in your projects list, this doesn't mean that you are going to change the original scripts. Whoever created the project will see the project that he initially or she initially created. So this means that making it yours, you can work on it within your folder. The changes will not affect the original script.
Okay, and last thing for anybody who has, who has the Scratch downloaded as an app onto their computer or laptop or tablet, I'm gonna also show you how to share your project with us. What you can do, okay, so I need to share my whole screen, give me a sec. Okay, so this is the exact same environment as you can see, but I'm not online anymore. I'm locally onto my computer, and let's say I have created this random project. I'm not gonna put a lot of effort into it. That's it. So I can do file, I can save to my computer. I'm gonna save it as a test, and I'm gonna save it on my desktop. Okay, so now I have this project saved, and now I need to stack again. Okay, so now that I am here, back to the online version, I'm gonna go to create. And what I want to do is basically upload the file that I just saved locally to my computer. So I can go here that says file, and I can load from your computer. This is the choice I want to make. And you can see here test.sp3 is the extension for the Scratch files. I choose it, I click open. Yes, I want to replace the current project. I click OK, and as you can see, now I have online the project that I have also offline locally on my computer. I don't know if this is helpful. I think Alexandra asked about it. Alexandra, I don't know if this is helpful for you that you have done it locally.
Thank you.
Okay. And whoever else, of course, has downloaded Scratch and was not using it online all this time, can do the same. So they can send us the URL, the link.
I suppose we have covered the most important steps.
Yeah.
From point zero, when you already have an express idea and you want to make something out of it, up to the moment that you share your finished project. Actually, it's never a finished project. As you saw before, there are hundreds of things that can be always changed and enhanced, or someone else will do it for you. So this means that actually by now you should, in theory, create a simple game. You will have the chance to check again on the video. In order for us to be able to contact you after the end of this webinar, you should fill in the form I showed to you before. I will share my screen again. Sorry.
I'm gonna be super quick because I promised it.
No, you can show it to Manuel, but in order for people that have other obligations and work,
and they want to leave,
they want to leave. So I'm going to remind you that in order for us to get back to you with the video of the webinar, with your certificate, and with whichever information we think that might seem useful to you, you should actually fill in the online form, which I will show you right away. Otherwise, we will not have the possibility to know who was here today, because apart from the names that we can see in the participants list, we don't have any information about the contact details. Of course, we can cross-check with the names that you registered in the form at the beginning, but there are some people that are showing up with the nickname here, so we cannot guess who's who. This is why I'm going to show you again. Excuse me. Just give me a second. So I'm going to show you again the form that you have to fill in order for us to know who was here. I will remind you for another time that no matter what you did today, it's okay with us. You cannot. You still have to fill in your full name accurately enough, because this will be written on the certificate. Your email address. Take some time to complete this online form as well, and paste here the link for your shared Scratch creation, if you have any. If you don't have any, if you don't feel confident about this, okay, no evaluation is involved here. We are not going to judge you for this. Upload whichever project you have created. Otherwise, if you have nothing produced so far, just put a casual link there in order for the form to, in order for you to be able to submit the form. and that's that. But because it's important for us and for you to share the information with us, please fill in both forms, and we'll get back to you until the end of this week with all the necessary information, and of course with the certificates. And the link to the video of the webinar. How long will the Google form be open for? It will not stay there forever. I suppose that we're talking about only a couple of questions, 4 questions, and the online form for the evaluation of the webinar. Just take some time. I would advise you to do this today, or at most until tomorrow afternoon, maybe, so we can cross-check with the registrations form from the initial stage and issue the certificates. It's going to take some time for us as well. So please don't procrastinate that much. Do it as soon as you can. We would like to thank you for your participation here. Do you have any closing questions before we solve Manuel's problem? I see that Mohammed has left his hand. Has he forgotten? Okay. Since there are no questions, I think that we have reached the end of the webinar. Before logging out, thank you very much, Georgia. You were awesome as well. We have to excuse ourselves in case that we didn't keep the pace that you expected. It was a bit difficult for us to keep a balance between less expert and anyway. It's okay. Thank you for your kind words. We're here for you. We're going to get back to you with more information. Please stay in touch. Become members of the rAn team. The project is still going on until the end of October 21. We are building a big community so far, so take part, be a member of the community. We are going to have a final conference at the end of the project where teachers and classes and pupils will be asked to come and present their work, virtually or not. You expect more actions from TALOS team? Yes, this is the closing comment. We intend to run some proper webinars in the sense that they will have we will have a structure and will be extended to more sessions, of course. We'll stay in touch. We'll let you know. Thank you all for being here today with us. The only one that should stay with us is Manuel. He's eager to know how to solve the interaction problem. Thank you all so much.
So bye also from me to everyone who's leaving, and thank you very much for listening to me talk for 3 hours. I hope the information though was useful and that you will be able to create and start making and coding because it's really it's an amazing process to code. It's really important.
Last but not least, if you need to ask for help, we are here for you. Yeah. You have our mail. Yeah. You can write to us about your concerns and your problems, and we will try to address all issues and questions. And last but not least, within the PDF that you received in yesterday's email, there are 3 suggestions about manuals that can be downloaded for free. We have chosen those 3 because we think, those 2 to be honest, because we think that they're very complete for the purposes of a lesson and for the purposes of a simple game design. But as I said before, there are dozens of groups on Facebook where if you become a member, you can have access to marvelous materials online, all for free. And okay, the sky is the limit. Go out there and experiment. It's up to you. You set the limits. Okay, thank you. Alexandra is raising her hand.
The link you have sent to us to submit the game doesn't work.
So I didn't hear the question.
The link to submit doesn't work.
Are you talking about the link for the
mini game?
Which mini game? The Scratch project. Okay, this is the one that you put on the chat. Can you check with it?
I can't see it all.
So when
I see edu/pro, nothing else.
Is it clickable for you? Because like for me it's clickable, but I don't know if it's because
No,
of the
it isn't.
editor. It's not. Okay.
It is for me. It is for me. I just click on it.
Is everybody okay? Can somebody else click on the link I shared, or is it a problem for everybody?
Okay, no worries about it, because that's why we're asking for your space for your emails, because we're going to include this link as well there.
Thank you.
So no worries about it.
So it will be included, of course, in the email that you will receive. Okay, so 2 minutes for whoever wants to find out how to make the red lines make you lose points, and manual especially for you. Okay, so all we have to do is go here to the cat sprite. We have to choose it, remember, and come here to the script that we have already created that says when backdrop switches to level 2. We said that we want the cat to go to the specific position, and we wanted to give instructions to the user what to do. But another thing that we want to happen to the cat when we're on the level 2 is every time it touches the red, I wanted to lose 1 point from its score, because we said the red line is off limits, you cannot touch it. So we need a conditional statement again. I'm gonna go to control, I'm gonna choose the if statement, and as you can see, just as we did before, in here it needs the statement. And what is the statement? Are you touching red? So I'm gonna go to sensing, because it senses that it touches the red basically. I'm gonna grab the second choice that says touching color, and it has like a random color in there. It doesn't bother us. I'm gonna grab it and drag it into the rhombus shaped statement. And now it says if touching color, but I do not want a gray, I want a red one. I click on the color, and I can either play around with this brightness, saturation, or color, or what I can do is click down here on the eyedrop tool and go into my stage and pick the color I want, which is much easier. So I'm just gonna go here, pick the red, and as you can see now it says if touching color red. What do I want to happen if the statement is true? I want the score to go -1. So I go to my variables, I change my score by -1. So now every time my cat touches the red, the score will change by -1. And just as I said before, this statement will only be checked once. The moment, the millisecond that the backdrop switches to level 2. But on the millisecond that this happened, my cat is just here. It doesn't go around. It just stays into specific coordinates. So I want this statement to be checked forever. So I'm gonna go to control, and all I need is a loop, the forever loop. So as long as the backdrop is switched to level 2, forever the statement touching color red will be checked if it's true or false. And depending on the result, it will either change the score by 1 or nothing will happen if you do not touch the red. And last but not least, as you can see, this works. Now let me click on the flag first. This works, but the problem is you can see my score goes down not by 1 but like thousands and thousands. And again, this happens because my machine is very fast. It makes calculations much faster than my fingers can help the sprite go away from the red. So in order to avoid this, we do a little trick, and all I have to do is place this command that says wait 1 second. So what this does is the moment my cat touches the red, it changes the score by 1, and before it goes again in the loop, like in milliseconds, it tells it to wait for 1 second. So the user has enough time to move the cat away from the red line, and it can continue his journey. So let's see it for a last time. Let me go to the second level. As you can see, my score is 0, and the moment I touch the red line, it goes to -1. If I touch it again, -2, etc. I will leave it up here for like 2 more minutes before I close the meeting. Everybody who wants to copy it can do it now. Otherwise, as we said, I will send you the link of the project, not only in the chat here, but also in the email that you will receive in the next days. Manuel, I hope that was helpful.
Excuse me, but
yeah, I can hear you.
When I touch into cup, into glass, it will feel because when I make my lines, I chose in this case black and the cup.
Okay, so you made the lines not red but black, correct? Exactly. Okay, so it's exactly the problem that you just said. It's gonna see the black lines around your glass and it's gonna lose points. That's why I made sure to make the lines of my maze red so it doesn't interfere with the other sprites. Okay, so you can just go back and edit your backdrop here. Instead of black, make it red. Okay? Okay, perfect. So, guys, once again, thank you very much for listening to me. Any question you have, you can email us and I will write you back with troubleshooting or debugging if you need it. You can send me screenshots of your code, or you can even send me the project with a link, and we'll be very happy to help you in any way I can. We're done. Thank you very, very much again, and good night. If nobody else has a question, of course.
Goodbye.
One last one, sorry.
Of course, no worries, let me know.
I'm trying to put the forever button, the whole content, but it doesn't fit.
Okay, so you have the forever command here.
Yes, and I want to catch the whole. I should go from downwards.
Yeah, it's easier. Okay, so yeah, just make them 2 separate and then grab this one and put it inside the forever. I think it's easier.
And we want to have the whole content from above.
Okay, so you want the forever to be, everything to be inside it?
Yes.
So you just put it here and then you add anything else you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. I think I saw another raised hand then. Alexandra and Stavroula. I think you have raised.
Do you hear me?
Yes,
now?
yes, of course.
Oh, thank you very much for such interesting things. And I'd like to ask, because I try to make my hero, not the cat, a dragonfly. I use a dragonfly to make a game for oscillations and use it in physics. And I tried to make it swinging.
Oh, yeah, you asked me.
I put a line and a circle, and I put it inside. But I can't use the button of make team from all of the objects to move them together. I have made 2 scenes with different costumes, and I send this to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, good.
So you will send us the project, and we will make practice and be better. Thank you very
Of
much.
course, no worries. And you can send me your project, the one about the pendulum, because actually it sounds very, very interesting to use it in order to teach physics. And I will look into it and let you know exactly how you can do it.
Okay, I have put it in the questionnaire.
Perfect, perfect. I will get it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I think also, Alexandra, have you raised your hand, or was it from before? Probably it was from before. So I think there are no more questions, I'm guessing. Yeah, probably yeah. So we can, I think we can go, because I also have to get back home before the lockdown, before the lockdown is in effect. Thank you again, guys, and we will be in contact, of course, through email and Google form. I will see all your projects. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you, Jeff.